Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm going to pass it off to Manas here to get us started. Manas, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I
There we
hope
go.
you all can hear me now. So, good
Yep.
morning, good evening from wherever you are all joining. Very, very excited to present to you in this today's webinar session, and we are going to talk about some of the basic and introductory concepts about security operations and what are the applications that are entailed in there. So, I hope you can see my screen. So got it. Okay. So yeah, today in this webinar, I'm going to be joined with Tim Boswell, who is also in my team, in the outbound product management team, and he's going to cover some portion of the webinar alongside with me.
Hi, everyone.
Some safe harbor notice as we sort of move in this webinar. Uh, we are not looking to cover any forward-looking statements, but in case we do cover some of those forward-looking statements, our standard safe harbor notice does apply to this presentation. All right, so some housekeeping for this webinar. We have some time towards the end for Q&A. Also, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen along the way. Uh, this presentation will be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community. And after the event is completed, you will be prompted to fill out a short survey. Uh, Thank you for all the feedback that you keep on sharing with us. So this is the agenda that we have today. Broadly, we'll have three sections, followed by some closing resources section and the Q&A that we have towards the end. So we have divided this into three parts: the what, how, and why. Right. So the what is basically giving you a basic overview of what are the security operation applications uh, that are there within our product suite, uh, and how are they structured across different product groups. The how will give you a brief journey, a sort of a brief journey into how your SecOps implementation can go forward when you're trying to think of sort of implementing SecOps in your organization. The why to in the end will give you some of the key value that you can achieve while implementing SecOps in your organization, right? So this is how we are going to sort of broadly structure our webinar. All right, so let's just start with the first part, which is the overview of security operations applications. And this will cover some of the key resources that you or your team will have if they want to dive deeper into SecOps. But before we do that, just a quick poll, um, and you can see the poll getting launched. So what are you planning to implement with ServiceNow SecOps, right? Uh, and I know this is for you, for some of you who might not be aware of what security incident response, vulnerability response is, that's totally okay. We are going to cover a lot of that in this webinar. But in case you do and you have some idea, would be great to share your feedback in this poll. And I'll just wait for another 5-6 seconds more, and we'll move to the next slide. All right, I guess most of you would have responded. Great. So let's just get to the next slide. So as many of you would be knowing, the security operations portfolio includes a suite of solutions that fit into two broad areas. On the one side, we have the ability to respond to vulnerabilities across cyber attack surfaces. And this is largely achieved through our vulnerability management solutions, including vulnerability response, as well as application and container VR. And you can see that this covers a range of areas where a lot of these things are addressed through different offerings. So we have infrastructure vulnerability response, we have application vulnerability response, cloud vulnerability response, and we have a new offering which is security posture control, which is also part of the VR suite. On the other hand, we have the ability to respond to incidents across enterprise security functions. And this is largely achieved through our enterprise security case management solution, the security incident response product group. And within that, we also have a threat intelligence solution, the data loss prevention incident response, major security incident response, and more. So you can note that on the right hand side, we have a reactive solution, and on the left hand side, we have a proactive solution. So proactive meaning you sort of beforehand try to know what are the vulnerability, the weaknesses in your security posture, and then try to fix that or update that with patches. On the right hand side, it's a reactive approach where you already know that an incident has happened, and then you're trying to uh, mitigate that at the earliest, right? So it kind of covers both the end of spectrum in that sense when it comes to security response. So let's just start with a high level view of a typical security incident response workflow in the Now platform. So within our security incident response product, or SIR, that's what we sort of acronymize it to, we really unlock automation and workflows that enable us to respond to incidents faster. And this is a very, very high level view of that process. So starting on the left, by integrating your various security and SIM tools, you have one central system of action to view and prioritize alerts. Note what you see on the screen are small sample of integrations, but we have hundreds of pre-built out-of-the-box integrations that are in the store. When those alerts and incidents come into SIR, the native connection to your CMDB within ServiceNow allows you to understand service business context and prioritize security incidents. Next, the ability to integrate with threat intelligence tools helps to enrich those incidents to better organize and orchestrate response actions and direct those responses directly within SIR workspace, followed by post-incident workflows like completing configurable reports and sharing those reports across the organization for better visibility. So this is what we have, like in a sort of a nutshell, uh, how security case management works with SIR. So it's basically it basically involves triaging, investigating, resolving, and recovering from the incident, right? So a full life cycle management of the security alerts in the SOC workspace. And so it gives a guided experience for the analysts for resolving the incidents, and it sort of gives all the nice features like dashboarding and reporting, and all of the in sort of orchestration and automation that's there, uh, along with integration with other third-party vendors, right? So it kind of is a full life cycle management of security alerts within the workspace. Now, this is the high-level view of vulnerability response workflow. On the attack management, surface management side, we have a vulnerability response, which gives you the visibility, prioritization, and automation of vulnerabilities across the enterprise. So this starts with integrating scanners to bring your vulnerability data into ServiceNow, and then setting up your vulnerability calculators and assignment rules to enable automatic risk scoring and grouping of vulnerabilities, as well as assignment to the right teams across security and IT. In addition, we also have solution recommendations and patch orchestration, as well as workflows for reassignments and requesting exceptions and deferrals, which can connect with our integrated risk management solution. And lastly, rescans can confirm whether vulnerabilities have been remediated and close them out. again, this gives a picture of how the VR solution looks like. Basically, it's a solution for prioritizing and remediation of vulnerabilities. So getting to ingest vulnerabilities from third-party tools, uh, automatically risk scoring them, which helps them to prioritize and then get into patch orchestration and vulnerability solution management, and also the nice features of dashboarding and reporting that we saw with SIR, that also comes out of the box with VR as well. Some of the key resource highlights, and we are going to go through these in more depth in the following slides. But you can see that on sort of a high level, these are the key areas that you can look at for getting assistance about what the product lines entail. So we have product documentation, we have demo and video resources, we have now learning, which contains a lot of training and certification programs. Then we have the SecOps community site, where we kind of post a lot of content, up-to-date content about our latest offering. And then finally, we have the ServiceNow developer website. So let's just go through them quickly and see how all of these can help you get started with ServiceNow SecOps. So we first of all we have product documentation, which is where you'll find all the latest product information and release notes, as well as all the other helpful content like setup guides and instructions on learning about entitlements. Um, we'll be sharing all these links with you in the chat. Second, we have our community YouTube channel, and there are a lot of videos across YouTube, and these particular channels are a go-to resource if you want to view the latest and greatest demo videos for security operation and any other live on ServiceNow content. Um, so again, the links of all of these will be shared in the chat. The next resource that we have is the Now Learning platform, where your team can use learning credits towards virtual on-demand or instructor-led courses and obtain certifications. So we have regularly updated SecOps fundamentals, SIR, and VR implementer courses, as well as relevant learning paths. Uh, and we have created a community post that includes comprehensive list with the links to recommended training for SecOps. Uh, Again, we are going to share the link of the same in the chat. Our security operations community is a central hub for SecOps users across the world, where you can share resources and best practices and post questions to get solutions from ServiceNow experts. We also regularly post articles and blogs about the product and upcoming webinars. So we recommend you and your team to subscribe to this community post to get these updates. Um, our quick start guides for VR and SIR are also likely helpful in this stage. So we'll be sharing those links as well in the chat. The ServiceNow developer website is our developer ecosystem, which is a great resource for your more technical team members and is open to all level of individuals. It includes detailed technical documentation, and it's where your team can sign up for a free developer program where they can collaborate with other ServiceNow developers and gain access to a personal developer sandbox instance to download ServiceNow applications for free and experiment with the Now platform. All right, so we'll get into the next section of the how part, which is the implementation part. And I'm going to hand it over to Tim, who is going to take us through the next section.
All right, thank you. I think we have a poll before we get going. There's another poll. Because what I'm going to do for my section, I'm going to, for the next, say 15 minutes, try and keep us on time here. I'm going to provide a high level or executive level overview on how to implement security operations. And this poll what I'll do is I'll do my best to try and tailor my section based on your responses. So if you're implementing now, if you're planning to implement, it sounds like a lot of people are implementing now or getting ready to implement soon. And then there's a few other ones. Let's see. Some people are still responding. So Modest, I don't know if you want to end that now. It looks like everybody's done responding and share that. Okay, so it looks like the vast majority of people are either doing it now or getting ready to do it, with some people that don't have any plans. Maybe it's just kind of along for the ride. So let me go through again, high level, how we would do this. The first thing I want to mention is your options around implementing. Um, yes, ServiceNow, we have our own expert services. We do have professional services that can help you install. We also have a very large ecosystem of implementation partners globally, industry-wide. These implementation partners are very skilled. They don't just do security operations. They do ServiceNow platform. They do a lot of custom things. We do have some implementation partners that have built integrations that are in the store and are supported. Um, and then also there's a code delivery model. So sometimes what customers will do is they'll sign up both ServiceNow expert services and a ServiceNow implementation partner and have them both work together to do that implementation and that configuration and get you going. Sometimes it's a little bit more on the implementation partner side, with ServiceNow providing advisory services for that partner. Maybe if it's a more complex rollout, or maybe there's some configuration that needs to be done, then ServiceNow would just provide advisory services. Or again, you could just go with one or the other. The third option here is self-implementation. That's where customers decide that they don't want services from ServiceNow. They don't want to engage with an implementation partner. They just want to do it themselves. That definitely has some upsides and some pros, but I will say that most customers go with the implementation partner. And the reason why is because those implementation partners, that's what they do every day, all day, with a vast portfolio of customers, is implement. They have very deep expertise around implementation. And so if you're out there and you're a customer and you're thinking about self-implementing, you may want to stop and think like, okay, do I have a team that has experience doing implementations? And if I run into a problem, is that am I is that something I should be able to solve myself? Or would I want a lifeline of somebody who maybe has already run into that problem and knows how to solve that? And if the answer is yeah, we're good, we have a great team, we can implement ourselves, we've been doing this ourselves for a long time, then good to go. But if I would really, before you select that self-implementation, I would take a hard look at your own internal resources and make sure that you're set up for success before you go down that route. So next slide. All right. So what we're talking about here is having expert guidance throughout your implementation. It will ensure that you target the right outcomes, functionality, and scope your implementation properly. But we do see customers having success with an iterative, one step at a time approach. This crawl, walk, run, fly mode depicts the graduated approach to implementing, where you can focus on getting the right foundations in place first. Of course, there's always going to be that platform level. ServiceNow security operations, they sit on top of the ServiceNow platform. It's a true platform. It's not a whole bunch of applications that are held together by APIs. It is a true platform, and security operations is a part of that platform. And so that's kind of the foundation. Well, it isn't kind of, it is the foundation that security operations resides on. So once you have that set up and you have the applications installed and set up, and you're able to get that going. Once you have that set up and data coming in, then you can move into things like reporting and performance analytics. And then you can start advancing into additional apps and data sources and integrations. And you can start adding more integrations so you can get that enrichment data. And then you can start adding on more advanced things like threat intelligence and threat intelligence security center. And then that like patch orchestration for VR. And then also within SIR, major security incident management. And then on the VR side, move into cloud security. So what most customers will do is they'll start out with that base level security incident response or base level vulnerability response, start integrating their security tools, start getting things going, start gradually adding automation, gradually adding more and more integrations so that way these applications are more powerful. And then they start adding on more features that come with those integrations and then add on additional applications from there. So if we go to the next slide, this might make a little bit more sense if you think of it in like a maturity model going from 0 to 3. So where most customers are when they're first starting out is they're over there at 0. They're manual operations. They're exporting their vulnerabilities out of the vulnerability scanner. They're putting it into a spreadsheet and they're giving it to the IT department and saying, okay, go patch this stuff. Or they're trying to work directly out of that vulnerability scanner. Um, the problem with that is it's not efficient. It's wasting effort, it's wasting time. Plus, if you need to look at other resources, like if you're using threat intelligence for vulnerabilities, you're doing a lot of that screen switching. And then as far as assigning it to people, you're not able to track and manage that. And so when you can install vulnerability response, when you first install it, you're very quickly able to get to that level 1 unified visibility, automating the import of those vulnerabilities into ServiceNow, being able to match that up with those configuration items, um, having that single system of record and also that single system of truth. And that moves into a single system of action. So then once you have that in ServiceNow, then you can start automating the remediation of those vulnerabilities and start working your way up and eventually maturing your way to level 3, where you can start doing some advanced risk scoring. You can start using ServiceNow for your patch orchestration because we have some great integrations with tools like BigFix or Microsoft Security Center or Tanium and many others. And then you can start moving out into other areas like application vulnerabilities or container vulnerabilities, or even taking it a step further and looking at total hygiene around those assets. Similarly, in the next slide, if we look at security incident response, very similar. Customers are probably who are just starting out. They're probably over there at level 0. I worked in a security operations center. I remember what it was like um, when we were trying to do things in our SIM tool and our EDR tool, and then we were constantly switching screens between our security tools and going over to Active Directory and going over to the CMDB, and we were wasting a ton of time. And very similar to VR, when SIR gets implemented, the first thing that you're going to get is that unified visibility. You're going to have that one place where you can have all of your security incidents and you can start doing that case management around your security incidents and you start having those integrations. So now you can start eliminating that screen switching by having all those integrations come in. And then the next thing you do as you work your way up that maturity scale is start adding automation and start taking out things like, okay, I have this IP address. I want to know if this IP address is malicious or not. I need to send that to VirusTotal or CrowdStrike or wherever and get the results back. Well, that's not something that has to be done manually. You can do it manually, but that's a waste of time. The idea is let's give that to ServiceNow. Let ServiceNow do that, save time. So while ServiceNow is doing that, I can do other things. I can focus on things that don't that maybe don't require that mundane activity. Give all that mundane activity to ServiceNow, and then as we work our way up, that maturity, we're doing things like enriching data by pulling in that MITRE attack data, pulling in that threat intelligence, further automating our response. So that way, when we have use cases that maybe don't require any kind of decision or human judgment, we can we can give all of that over to ServiceNow, and ServiceNow can automate some of those use cases end to end if we want to activate those playbooks that we provide out of the box. And then the one thing I left out for both of these is that native ability to pull in that asset data. So one of the reasons why ServiceNow customers use security on ServiceNow is because of that native connection to the CMDB. And so that's one of the first things that you're going to want to do is plug in security incident response and vulnerability response to that CMDB. So that way those vulnerabilities are automatically matched against those configuration items. Or when you have a security incident, you can quickly pull in that asset information and understand the blast radius of that incident, understand who's using that system and whether those systems that are being attacked. So Manas, let's go through the next ones. Just very kind of briefly, keep us on time here. Some implementation themes that I want to point out. Um, the what we're going to go through for the next few minutes are some common themes when implementing VR. It starts with connecting that vulnerability scanner and bringing in that scan data. You don't want to bring in all hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of vulnerability findings to start off with. What you want to do is start off with like a small chunk of data. What some customers will do is they'll just start out with like their critical assets, the vulnerabilities on those critical assets, kind of start out with that, and start gradually ramping up. You don't want to just flip a switch and bring everything in. Once we bring this into ServiceNow, then we can start to see, do we have those assets in the CMDB? And then you can start to figure out like, okay, if the vulnerability scanner is finding assets that aren't in the CMDB, how do we want to handle that? Because ServiceNow has the ability to help you reconcile that. So now security, it's no longer overhead. Now it's an enabler. So now you're able to use security to help increase the accuracy of your CMDB. But anyway, getting back to implementing it with VR, the idea is that's to get you started and to get some immediate value out of that is, wow, we've got these vulnerabilities, we have better visibility into them, we can get it under control, and we also have visibility as to matching up these vulnerabilities with the assets in our CMDB. So if we go to the next slide, I'll just kind of touch on a few of these items. Yeah, VR implementation components. Yeah, the core components. This is the initial foundation or the plumbing. So you're going to connect with that third-party scanner, whether it's Tenable, Qualys, Rapid7, or any of the many others that we integrate with out of the box. You want to look at how does that data align with our assets in the CMDB. Then you want to start to normalize that data. Your goal is to get these findings assigned to the right teams correctly the first time to address and remediate these vulnerabilities very quickly. And so when you're first starting out, that's going to require a little bit of tuning as far as who do these need to get assigned to. So what you have to do is you have to do a little bit of tuning to do the prioritization and tailoring it to your business needs. Those assignment groups are not going to be the same with every single customer. So you are going to need to go in and match those up properly based on your organization. If we go to the next slide, those maturity level 1 capabilities. This is where we build on top of that core plumbing with things like tying into our change management process or applying a patch or making a configuration change, establishing exception management. So this is now where you can get into exception management. You can track those exceptions and those vulnerability deferrals in ServiceNow like a ticket. So it's easier to understand like, okay, if I have an asset that falls under like Sarbanes-Oxley or DORA or something like that, now I can better and the asset owner has said they need an exception. I can better understand, is that exception going to cause me to fall out of compliance? How do I track that? Can I maybe set some notifications on those exceptions? And then you want to start thinking about how to monitor the processes and doing those reportings, like whether it's the standard reporting or performance analytics, which is like your trending reporting, and all that comes out of the box. And so those are some things that you want to start planning out as well. Thank you. Security incident response. Very similar. Again, you want that plumbing. You want to start thinking about your personas. You want to start thinking about your incident response process. If you're one of those traditional tier one, tier two IR teams, or maybe you're one of those smaller IR teams where everybody does everything, you want to think about that. You want to kind of consider that as you implement, because you want to start thinking about how that team is going to use this system and how you're going to assign incidents and think about that. And then you want to start bringing in that data, those alerts, those events, those offenses. You want to start bringing in that data from your sensors. Usually it's like through an integration with a third-party SIM like Splunk or QRadar or something like that, bringing that in, and then think about like, okay, how will we do that? How would we do this manually based on how our team is organized, and start out there, because eventually you're going to want to automate that and you're going to want to start orchestrating that. But again, take an iterative approach. Like I said in some of the previous slides, you want to crawl, walk, run, and then fly. You don't want to just flip a switch, start bringing in all that detection data and start automating everything from the start. The best way to look at that is, what is our process flow for this use case? Let's put that into ServiceNow, and then let's start automating certain aspects of that. So let's go through these last two slides, and then I think I'm handing it back over to you, Manas. The implementation, the core implementation components, again, just like VR, core plumbing, think about those integrations. Look at those security tools that you use and think about which integration do you want to turn on first. Where do you have most of your activity? Maybe the SIM is the first thing that you want to integrate with ServiceNow. Maybe you have an EDR tool, and that's the second thing you want to implement. And then maybe you have a way for users or employees or people at your organization to report phishing attempts. How do you want them to report those? And then think about like, okay, now let's integrate that and start bringing that into ServiceNow, and then defining those playbooks. So most customers will start out with those manual playbooks, some initial playbooks to get started, and then eventually start using the other more advanced playbooks that we provide, and adding in the automation that we provide out of the box. So next slide, please. I think we've still got some more core. Yep. The other thing that you want to look at as you're first starting out is how you're going to collaborate with other teams through security incident response. Remember, one of the reasons why customers use ServiceNow for security is because they want to be on the same platform as the rest of their organization. So if IT is using ServiceNow, if HR is using ServiceNow, the ability to create tasks and assign it to IT or assign it to HR. Let's say maybe it's an employee policy violation or something like that. So that's the other thing you want to look at is, okay, how do we want to collaborate with other organizations using ServiceNow? And then wrap up the feedback loop with some questionnaires, some post-incident analysis and post-incident reports and things like that. So that way you can truly treat this as your case management tool. And then the last slide, and I'll try to wrap it up. Some additional implementation components. ServiceNow Security Incident Response, while we don't refer to it as a SOAR product, remember it does have those SOAR capabilities. And that's where most customers start out before they really start going deep with threat intelligence and major security incident management. So with regards to SOAR and how you can do that on ServiceNow, this is really where things start to take off, because as you master and as you mature with ServiceNow and your implementation journey, and as you master those integrations and that data coming in, and then as you master the automation, as far as automating what ServiceNow does with that data to save you time and reduce manual activity, then you can take it further and you can use ServiceNow to orchestrate the activities going out there. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to have this alert come in from my EDR tool. Once you have that coming in, then you want to look at, do I want ServiceNow through the integration with that EDR tool to trigger the isolation of that laptop? Maybe you want to do it manually, and it can be as simple as saving time by pressing a button in ServiceNow. And so you don't have to switch screens over to your EDR tool, or maybe you say, I want to do that automatically. Go into those playbooks we provide and look at that and say, maybe if the EDR tool says there's malware in this particular department, you just automatically want that EDR tool to isolate that based on which department that asset resides in. And that's what you're going to get out of ServiceNow. That's what the EDR tool can't do by itself. That's where matching up ServiceNow allows you to do that, and you can do that in an automated fashion. So there's lots more you can do, and then again, there are other applications. I think I went over by a little bit, so Modest, I'm going to end there and hand it back over to you, and hopefully I didn't take up too much time. Modest, we still have you there?
I'm sorry, I was speaking on mute. So thank you, thank you, Tim, for covering or taking us through the implementation part. And I'll just quickly walk through the last section, which is the why part and what's the value that we can achieve with implementing security operations uh, in your organization. So let's get started with that. But before that, again, a poll for this section. What are your top desired business outcomes? And would be great if you can again respond to this poll. Um, you know, Feel free to choose one of the choices that are popping up, and we'll see what the response is. Looks like, yeah, I think it's a lot of mixed uh, responses that we are getting. I think a lot of you are responding to the first option, which is accelerating response to security incidents. That's the core value that you want to derive. Uh, the same thing for critical vulnerabilities. And there is a fair bit of interest in reducing security incident resolution effort. So I think it's kind of split between these three options. So yeah, good to know about that. I believe most of you have responded, so let's just share these results and stop sharing. Let's get back to the deck. All right, awesome. So, so what we are seeing here is the kind of value that our customers are achieving with SecOps. You can also achieve all of these things depending on what your priorities are. And so to highlight a few, security analysts closing 2 times the number of security incidents on average at 12 months and close to that at 6 months, cutting mean time to remediate a security incident or a vulnerability. Uh, you know, that's in half, almost half, right? In like 12 months of use. That's pretty awesome, right? For the customers to achieve that, and our customers have achieved these kind of numbers. Um, and our best-in-class customers are achieving even better results. So these are just some of the examples of the value and the results that our customers are achieving with security operations products. And we at ServiceNow are customer zero, which means that we kind of adopt our own product. So ServiceNow is also adopting SecOps for remediating their own vulnerabilities or addressing the security incidents that are coming in. So we kind of moved from the manual labor-intensive processes to respond to vulnerabilities to using vulnerability response. And in this slide, we are showcasing some of the results that we got, right? So leading up to 99% of assignment accuracy in assigning the vulnerabilities, exceptionally high SLA attainment, like almost 96% SLA attainment with the vulnerabilities, and 85% gain in the productivity of the analyst, right? So these are really great internal results, um, that we kind of achieved at ServiceNow with adopting our own product lines. And similarly, with security incident response, our internal security organization has also gained immense value from moving from the manual processes to being able to prioritize those alerts and automate processes, leading to over $800,000 of staffing cost savings and thousands of hours of analyst time saved uh, for responding to these security incidents. So again, we are active users of our own product, and we are continuing to implement new functionality to reach even better results. Now, in this slide, you can see, you know, how do we sort of measure success across different parameters, right? So uh, some of the examples that you see here are the types of outcomes that you can choose to prioritize in different implementation phases across cost benefits and risk benefits, and how you can measure the success across these parameters. So many customers will initially select 1 to 3 outcomes that relate to their key challenges in order to prioritize those for their implementation and be able to select appropriate metrics to measure their progress. There are a number of resources are now create that we shared earlier, which include information on outcomes and metrics that you can reference. And there is also a community post that summarizes this that we'll share in the chat. Now, as you explore the value that you can get out of your security operation application and create a vision for your organization, there are some of these resources that we want to highlight. So the first one is ServiceNow Impact. Essentially, it's a value acceleration solution designed to maximize the value you get out of your investment with ServiceNow and tailored to your organization based on 4 focus areas: value management, product adoption, platform health, and expertise on demand. The second option that we have, or just before that, let's just cover the ServiceNow Impact Experience, which is sort of a range of packages, including guided, advanced, and total. Again, personalized according to your needs. There are different offerings within all of these packages. And this slide also shows some more detail around some of the different options. Um, Highly recommended for you and your organization. If you want to learn more about Impact, you can reach to your account executive or customer success manager if you want to leverage some of these resources for yourself. Yeah, so the second option that we have is the customer case studies. Number of case studies that you can view on servicenow.com that gives a glimpse into the type of success and outcomes that our customers have achieved with the solutions, including security operations. So you can just filter by security operations product to get a closer look at the customers that specifically have used SecOps products. So Impact and customer case studies are your go-to resources. So let's just summarize all the resources that we kind of discussed towards the end of the webinar. We are also going to share this with you, the recording and the slides in the community. But these are some of the resources that you can just go through and learn more about SecOps and our different product lines that we just discussed, and hope that you achieve all of the value that we kind of captured in this webinar. Uh, Again, some key resources to learn more about SecOps. All of the links are being shared on the chat, so hopefully you can go on all of these links and learn more about our product lines and all the things that we discuss in the webinar. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah to take this up. Um,
Oh, yes, sure. So our security operations user experience team is always looking for more SecOps folks to get feedback and input on design. So they've asked me to flash this up. I'll share the link in the chat. Really, really interested in getting more security folks involved. Some of the benefits are you'll get, not only your input will be heard and incorporated, but also sneak peeks at designs and things that are coming. So great opportunity to get involved. We'd really appreciate it. If you're interested, you've got that QR code on the screen, and then I will pop the link into the chat if that's easier for you to access it that way. And then here we're also promoting a couple of in-person security and risk workshops that are coming up. So if you're interested in getting hands-on and technical experience with both security and risk applications, there are these in-person workshops coming up. One is in Miami on February 20th. The other is pre-RSA, April 28th in San Francisco. There's going to be more coming up, so that QR code will take you to the site where you can register and find out more. And then this is a live on ServiceNow webinar. So we are running these getting started webinars monthly, as well as an open forum office hours monthly, and quarterly what's new and roadmap webinars. So stay tuned in the community. I posted the events posting earlier, which I'm going to keep updating with all of our upcoming events. And you can register. We'd love to see you at future events.